Compliments of the season, everyone. I am Ranveer Singh from EUMIND Group 1. Our topic is gender roles across three generations. Today we have with us Mrs. Lynn. She is a teacher by profession and she has a degree of Masters in Literature. Nice to meet you, ma'am.
Same here. Thank you, Ranveer.
How's your day going?
Going good?
Okay, so beginning with the interview, our first question is: how have traditional gender roles evolved within your family over the past three generations?
Okay. So if you're speaking of gender roles, I would like to certainly make across generations. I would certainly like to make a mention of my grandmother, who was a homemaker. All right, and she looked after her 7 children. While my grandfather, he worked for the families. He was a sole bread earner. So if you look at how traditional gender roles are assigned, where the man has to work for the family while the woman is the one who looks after the children. So that is how it was back then. However, if I have to speak about my mother, she worked as a bank manager while looking after us daughters at home, right? So it was certainly a switch in the roles. And yeah, if you're talking of today's times, I think all, uh, if I have to speak of the women in our family, I think all are working, and not just working, but managing both the roles at home as well as, um, you know, um, so one of my cousins, she's a pilot, the other is a doctor, I'm a teacher, another is a lawyer by profession. So I think things have changed and times have certainly evolved. Yes.
Thank you, Miss. Next question. In the context of Indian culture, how do expectations for men and women differ across generations?
All right. So, the innate quality of a woman is, supposed to be, caring, self-sacrificing, bearing children, looking after them. And I think that is what has been carried over for generations. If you speak of a woman, you automatically, tend to look at that side of her. And, when it comes to men, there's a lot of burden, according what I feel. They are burdened with this kind of a, thing where they have to earn, they have to work hard for the family, and they are the ones who have to completely support the family. So this is how, it's looked upon. Yes.
Thank you, Miss. I completely agree. Like today's times are such. So now the third question is: in your family, have there been any notable instances or anecdotes where individuals challenged or defied traditional gender norms, as you just mentioned?
Okay, most certainly. And here I would like to make a mention of my father. So he worked in Saudi for around 15 years. All right. And after that, when he came back to India, he was on a sabbatical until he joined another company. So, say around 3 to 4 years. And during that time, my mother, as I said, was a working woman. So, my father, he was a homemaker for us then, like he looked after my sister and myself. He would get us ready for school, he would take up our studies, and I remember him ironing our clothes, our uniforms, preparing food for us. So ideally, you know according to the society or according to the tradition, it is the woman who's supposed to take up this job. But my father, he did it with so much of love. So today, when I look back to that, I still remember those days with so much of awe and respect, without having any kind of a fear or, any kind of a thought that what would others say, that my wife is working while I'm back home looking after my daughters. Right. So I think this is something that my father really, challenged.
Thank you, Miss. Moving to the next question. What role has media and popular culture played in shaping, influencing perceptions of gender roles in your family?
All right. So if not my family, but, on a general note, see, in earlier days, women were always portrayed as being victims. She would either be widowed or say not looked by well by her in-laws and things like that. But now, if you see the portrayal of women, in movies. So they're working in corporate sectors. They are business women starting business of their own and things like that. So I think media certainly we're all influenced by media, right? That is one platform which is really influential. So according to me, media has certainly played a very pivotal role when it comes to influencing people's perceptions about gender roles, and things are really changing for the better. Yes.
Now, shifting our center of focus from media, now we move on to clothing and fashion. So, in terms of clothing and fashion, how have gender specific styles or, societal expectations, changed over
Mm.
families, changed over generations or in general terms?
All right. So, personally, I consider myself very fortunate when it comes to, the kind of clothing we are expected to wear, especially when it comes to the family or the culture that I come from. We're very radical in that sense. However, if I were to speak of my grandparents, okay, they were supposed to wear a particular attire. So, like for example, my grandmother, she was supposed to drape a 9 yard sari. So, if you know what a 9 yard sari is, it's not very comfortable to wear. All right. So, she was expected to wear that throughout the day, as also in the night. All right. So that is what she was expected to wear. It was not quite comfortable. So I am very happy. Otherwise, I would be wearing the 9 yard sari and, kind of sitting for this interview. So I consider myself very lucky in that aspect that things have changed, and, people look at more of comfort than something that would otherwise be, uncomfortable, and, where society decides what a particular person has to wear, however uncomfortable something is. But yes, having said that, when we also have to keep up with our traditions. So for weddings and, events and all, we do continue that culture. Yes.
So, now coming to the last question. Now, overall, gender roles have, are shaped in a positive manner. So, how do you think gender equality in India can be promoted more amongst the public? Because if you see, then gender equality in India is not really in a good condition right now.
Right, right. So I think we should begin, from the students in school, because I think they are ultimately going to be the future of our country. So
Yes.
if we start, um, somewhere educating our children right from the very start. I'll just give you a very simple example. Like back when I was a child, and when we had these nursery rhyme books, all right, or some books that had topics like verbs, where a boy was shown, going to a market. So say Ram is going to the market while Sita is sweeping the floor, or she's mopping the floor. Mother is working in the kitchen while father is reading a newspaper. All right. So as a child, I've been brainwashed into believing these roles to be like that. Right. So I think if this very root of this is taken away, and, from the very start, a child is taught to think a different way without really, binding them to these kind of societal, gender typical, stereotypical norms. I think there would certainly be a change. Yes. And besides that, there are many other things that can also be done, but I think this is something that we have to take up, especially with respect to how we can change the mindset of children so they grow up to think differently.
Thank you, Miss. So, overall, education needs to be shaped in a very important role so that children are not brainwashed at an early age, like you mentioned the example, the typical
Into believing
examples we
something
have
that
in.
is not.
Yes.
Right, right, right.
So, thank you, Miss, for your valuable time. Gained a lot of
Most
insight.
welcome. Most welcome, and had a good time.
Thank you, Miss. So, with this, we come to the end of the interview, and this is Ranveer Singh signing off.
And scene, what a beautiful interview.